For my piece this semester, I chose Marjorie Applegate's Botero's Bride. Applegate's piece was created in 2001. It's an alabaster sculpture with 12-inch by 13.95-inch dimensions. I was drawn to it because I could see lots of similarities between her piece and some of my own. I was interested to find out more about the piece as well as the artist herself and any of her influences. It feels as if there are infinite theories of art history to use when analyzing a piece, so I chose to begin by simply looking at the artist herself in order to gain some context. Marjorie Pease Applegate was born on August 30th, 1926. She was initially a painter and later learned sculpture from Charles Carter. In addition to being an artist, Applegate is a wife and mother. In a book commemorating her 70th birthday, one of her daughters says of Applegate, "Other than family, sculpting in stone with hammer and chisel is her life's passion and fulfillment." Over the years, Applegate has completed many sculptures. Before analyzing Botero's Bride, it is important to stop and look at Applegate's influence for her piece to better understand the icons being used. If we refer to text, we find that the title Botero's Bride is referencing artist Fernando Botero. Botero was born in 1932 in Medellin, Colombia, and is currently based out of Monte Carlo. His works are known for the round, voluminous shapes and dimensions of their subjects. Botero, like Applegate, has experience in both painting as well as sculpture, and it is said that Botero's paintings frequently emulate the subject matter and composition of past masters. His bulbous renderings of these familiar images are often interpreted as gestures of irony or caricature. From this, we can begin to understand the Applegate piece more thoroughly. She is clearly referencing Fernando Botero's style, as she has chosen to create her piece in a similarly curvaceous way. As far as the connection between Fernando Botero and Applegate's piece, I haven't found any direct links. Although their sculpture styles seem very similar, I've been having trouble finding resources that directly link them. Fernando Botero has created a piece called The Wedding that depicts a woman in a white dress, but his other sculptures seem much more reminiscent of Applegate's piece this way. From here, we can continue the analysis further to include historical context and better understand the meaning of Applegate's rendition. The figures form the implied figure, the representational form of a woman, is crucial to understanding this piece. For this particular piece, I am most interested in a feminist approach to analysis. I feel that it is very appropriate to interpret Marjorie Applegate's Botero's Bride in a feminist point of view, because both the artist and her subject matter are female. To begin with, the role of gender in this piece is key. The work would not have the same implications if it wasn't the form of a woman. It's also interesting that the nude form of a woman was created by a woman herself. It's also important we understand the inspiration for the piece, that Botero the artist frequently depicts nude women. With this knowledge, we can interpret the piece as Applegate, as a woman artist, reclaiming the female form away from male artists. We could look at the piece as a critique of art history. The piece was done in the 21st century. For most of art history, women were not as influential or trained in the arts. However, ancient art includes many artifacts that both depict women and were most probably made by women themselves. These works include the Venus figurines. Applegate comments saying, "An artist who works with the hammer and chisel directly in the stone is using the oldest of all sculptural techniques." And, in fact, Applegate's piece shares many similarities with these early works. This choice to create a more abstract, greatly exaggerated female sculpture could be linked to these early figures. This could be a cause for a discussion or critique of women's role in art history as it has evolved. Towards the beginning of art history, women were very active, creating art like the Venus figures. Throughout much of the rest of art history, women artists faced much oppression and many challenges. Women usually couldn't obtain an artistic education equivalent to their male counterparts, and were more often models in the works of art than the actual artist. It wasn't until recently in late 20th and now 21st century where women are once again reclaiming an influential part in art making. Applegate manages to comment on all of this in her piece. We see the ancient art influences and the Venus-esque qualities of her work as she pays homage to the women artists of old. We can see influences of Manet's Olympia, Ingres' Odalisque, and the reclining female nude of Botero's Bride, although it is different this time because the artist is female. Applegate reclaims the reclining female nude of the past by being the artist, herself as a woman. By choosing to remove the gaze of the figure, she comments on the way women are made to be the object of the male gaze. This piece can also be interpreted in terms of gaze. The figure is abstracted, so it would be interesting to discuss whether the figure's gaze is directed at the viewer, away from the viewer, or if it even has gaze. In that case, the next step would be to discuss the viewer's gaze. If we choose to interpret this piece as a figure incapable of gaze, there are implications to that. The figure incapable of casting a gaze, regardless of direction, would be vulnerable. It would inherently take on less sentient qualities. To deprive a figure of a gaze effectively blinds it, in a way. There is no confrontation with or acknowledgement of the viewer. The viewer is free to observe the figure as an object. With this in mind, we can interpret Applegate's work as a critique of Botero's frequent depictions of women in the nude as turning women into objects. I am interested in Applegate's focus on male and female gaze. I am interested in what her practice as an artist says about women's position in art history, as well as, if not more so, domestic life. For my studio project, I wanted to continue to comment on similar themes and respond to Applegate's Botero's Bride. I found her approach to commenting on the concept of male and female gaze engaging. In my own work, however, I utilized the presence of eyes as opposed to the lack of eyes to make my point. I continue to use the nude female figure. With my work, I hope to continue the conversation about women as objects and art, and I hope to question the effect of the figure and the viewer's gaze.